Brett, can I hear a second? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Motion to reconvene.
So moved.
Motion second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are now reconvened. So, is there any closing comments on the interlocals, anything like that? Somebody throw that up before we move on? This bunch is quiet.
You know, if we just find something that the community needs, bring it up. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to serve the community.
Okay, I'm gonna hand it over to Natasha, our attorney, just to go over the, sales tax plainly. Some things have been said which aren't true. We just want to clear everything, so I'm gonna turn it over to Natasha, let her talk, and any questions.
Would any council members like to speak before I start?
Well, we just wanted to be sure right up front that everybody understood that the city has no intention of suing. The city is not trying to undo your election. The city is not trying to take all the money that or sales tax monies you're getting. Because there seems to be several comments that would make you think otherwise. So before Natasha started, we wanted to be sure unequivocally, and with the city, and with the newspaper here, that that is not our intent. We want to explain what we think you did wrong, and we have what we believe is a remedy for it, but it does not include trying to get all of your sales tax money at all, so.
Well said. Well said.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Natasha Brooks, and I'm the city attorney for the city of Odessa. When this all first began, I was just a senior assistant city attorney, but we've been discussing this for a while. And so I want to make a presentation to not only our city council, but the commissioners court, to talk a little bit about the county assistance district. And just to reiterate what Councilmember Dean said, our goal, I've been working with the city council for a while, and I'll have to say that their goal has never been to sue the county. In fact, they were very excited that the county was actually able to pass something they've been trying to pass for years, which is this county assistance district. It only benefits the city if you guys have good roads and you can make those public improvements that the county assistance district allows you to make. But this issue, our issue, the city's issue, is that with the county assistance district and the way that it was set up, the boundaries, things of that nature, it does limit the city from future growth. And that's our major concern. And the way that it does that is that the way that the language was sent to the comptrollers, the city, if it annexes anything in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, which from here on out we will call it the ETJ, if the city annexes within the ETJ, with the way that the county assistance district is set up, we cannot receive any sales and use tax in that area. And so what that means is this council, very reasonable council, they told me from the beginning, Natasha, we only want to do voluntary annexations, nothing involuntary. So what that means is if a company comes to us, a big company comes to us and says, look city, we want to put a property out in the ETJ of the county and the city, and we want to collect sales tax dollars, and we want your services. We would have to, at this point, tell them, we can't provide services because we cannot tax that particular area, a voluntary annexation. So really, the whole conclusion of this is what we want to do is to be able to just tax the areas that we voluntarily annex. So this would be people coming to us, companies coming to the city of Odessa saying, look, we want your services. And we want to be able just to provide them their services. We're not saying, county, we want to annex your whole ETJ and we want all of the sales tax money. That's not what we're saying. All we're saying is for areas that are voluntarily annexed within the ETJ, we want to be able to tax that area. We believe it can be solved very simply. All we have to do is redraw the boundaries, and we send it to the comptroller, and we tell the comptroller that's what we want to do. We enter into an agreement. A lot of people say, this has never been done before, we can't find any precedent on it, and that's partly true. You won't find any case law on it. You won't find an attorney general opinion on it. And the reason is because cities have been able to resolve this amicably. There are agreements. Now, what I want you to focus on is the Houston area. This mostly has happened in the Houston area. So there are several county assistance districts within the suburbs of the Houston area. And those, the county failed to provide in some form, shape, or fashion notice to the cities because this is a new concept, the county assistance district. So several cities in the suburbs of Houston, they've been able to work out agreements with the counties in order to just say, hey, you get this portion, we get this portion, and it's good. So no, you won't find any litigation, and I think that's great. And what we want to do as a city, we want to work together with the county. It is not my goal. I think I have a really good relationship with some of the attorneys in here. The county attorney, Dusty Gallivan, like I told him when I spoke with him very briefly, look, I see him as a mentor. So, and then I've worked with Greg Barber on several different issues. When we just had, questions regarding things with the county, sexually oriented businesses, I'll ask him for an ordinance, we'll provide him with ordinances. So nobody in the city of Odessa wants to fight with the county. That's not our goal at all. So we can go through some portions of the PowerPoint, or we can have a discussion because I think I've summarized basically our issues. It just depends on what you guys want to do in lieu of the time.
Would you explain to them how it was on the agenda and how it was actually on the ballot and how it's at the state, and that's why
Yes.
we didn't say anything, and that's why they needed to give us notice to
Okay.
tell us what that was.
Well,
If
let's
you
just
wouldn't
talk
mind.
about the notice and the general law. Section 387 gives the county the right to create a county assistance district, and none of that is in dispute. The county called, their election November 6th of 2018, and the election passed with over 300 votes. Now, as the way that we interpret the law, under 387-003B1, under that statute, there's a requirement of notice to the city, and that says if the proposed district includes any territory of a municipality, the Commissioners Court shall send notice by certified mail to the governing body of the municipality of the Commissioners Court's intent to create the district. Now, I know there's been some questions about what the word territory means. So we know that there are some questions about that, but we do believe that that's the area within the ETJ for the city. But I think what we can all agree to is the section of notice to development corporations. If the municipality has created a development corporation under chapter 504 or 505, the Commissioners Court shall also send notice to the board of directors of the corporation. The Commissioners Court must send the notice not later than the 60th day before the date the Commissioners Court orders the election. Now, once the city, the municipality receives notice of the county assistance district, the municipality, the city alone, has the right to exclude certain territory from the county assistance district. So what we did is we submitted an open records request to the county attorney's office, and we received a response from the county attorney's office on August 20th, 2019. As you can see, it may be hard to see, but this is our entire open records request. And I'd like for you to focus on number 1 and number 2, which we'll talk about more in the next slide. So those were our requests. We asked for a copy of the notice letter from the Ector County Commissioners Court to the city of Odessa for the intent to create a county assistance district, and then a copy of the notice letter from the Ector County Commissioners Court to the Odessa Development Corporation of the intention to create a county assistance district. And as you can see, the response to numbers 1 or 2 is that the city did not receive any notice. So this is our, and I think I'll give everybody the opportunity to look at the PowerPoint. If they have any further questions or concerns, we're happy for you to contact our office. But this is what we believe this territory of the city of Odessa is. And that would include the area within the stated boundaries of the city, the ETJ, as well as the annexed areas. So 42 of the local government code, the legislator gives us the ability to establish an ETJ. And right now, because we changed our population, August 27, 2019, the boundaries of the ETJ would be 5 miles out. But at the time of the establishment of the county assistance district, it was 3.5 miles.
Natasha, can you go back just real quick? I have a
Uh-huh.
question. On that first bullet point,
Uh-huh.
do you have a legal site for that?
No, we
All right,
don't. This
that's
is
all I need
the
to know.
city's
Thank you.
finding. But what we do, have is the failure to give notice to the, economic development.
But see, the thing is, we agree we didn't give you notice. That's not the question. The question is, are you entitled to notice? That's what we disagree about.
Yeah, right.
There is nothing in the law that says you're entitled to notice when we include the ETJ. Nothing at all. I've asked you to provide that to us, and nobody has done so.
And we
So
believe
how do
that
you
is the law.
I understand that's how you read it, but that is not the law.
But it is the law that you provide to the economic development.
No, it's not.
corporation.
Only if we have to provide notice to the city, which we did not.
That's not what the statute
That's
says.
exactly what it says.
All right.
In the event you have to provide notice to the city, then you provide it to
We
ODC.
don't need the lawyers arguing.
No, that's the whole point, is were they entitled to notice? Not whether or not notice was given. We agree notice was not given.
Well, but I think what
The
you-
question
what
is, was it
what
entitled-
you're
were they
missing,
entitled?
though, is the reason notice was not given is because our interpretation is different from yours in that if it's not within the city limits, you're not entitled to any notice. ETJ does not, I mean, the development corporation was not collecting any sales tax in the ETJ anyway.
Well, it wouldn't have to do with that. The reason
No, it
that the
does.
development corporation.
See, the reason the state set that up is so that we couldn't come in and take tax money away from the city or the development corporation. Y'all were not receiving any tax money from that area. That money was outside of the city limits, thus inside the county and outside the city limits, which was what our posting was for.
But if we annexed out of the ETJ, then
Exactly.
it would be in the city limits.
Right, but at that point, the law's already set. See, we can't budget for sales tax dollars, knowing that at any given time, y'all could annex our biggest portion of our sales tax money, and we would lose it. So, and that's why the state, well, I don't know why you do it.
It's
but-
voluntary, first off, and secondly, we'd have
All right,
to
so let's
furnish.
talk about that,
Just a second,
Okay.
we'd have to furnish water and sewer.
which you
and
charge
police.
for individually. So, I mean, you're already, that's why I was gonna ask, when a company comes in and says, we want to be in the city limits, can y'all annex it? The reason they usually do that is because that's the only way y'all provide water to them. But when you provide water to them, you set them up on a tap and you charge them for every drop of water they use.
No,
You
they
also-
don't have to be annexed to
you
get
also
our
start
services.
getting
They can
property
get a
taxes.
water sewer agreement. We have agreements.
So you also get property taxes, which isn't affected at all. So the only thing you're talking about is sales tax, which, again, if that's, it comes back to money. I don't know why, I mean, unless you're just annexing areas to get more sales tax dollars, then I don't know why this is an issue.
Well, we have
All the other services, you're collecting fees and services for.
We have industrial districts, and in the clause of the industrial district contract says you can be annexed.
Right.
That's part of it. And that's how we get in water and sewer. And some of those are coming to us and saying, we'd rather be annexed to get more services such as power and internet. And that's what we're seeing. And those agreements have been in effect for 20+ years.
They're already getting fire and EMS services with the industrial.
But they want full services in the city.
It's not fire and EMS.
But some of them are also water, because you're not getting water. Some of them are using wells, civils and private families, some using wells. They want us to extend service.
So back on the economic development, the reason I believe that the statute requires notice to the Economic Development Corporation, and Robert, will you get the local government code so we can, it's 387? Our, city allows, companies to set up even in the county. And so we have a development corporation which provides funds to not only the city but in the county. And so that's why you have to provide notice to the Economic Development Corporation, because we also, the Development Corporation provides money to the county for businesses and incentives and things of that nature. So that's not the only reason that was stated that they asked for, notice in the Economic Development Corporation.
So is that within the bylaws of the Development Corporation to provide funds outside the city limits?
They do, yes,
I know they have, but is that a violation of their bylaws?
no. So let me find this. So it says, if the municipality has created a development corporation under chapter 504 or 505, the commissioner's court shall also send a notice to the board of directors of the corporation. So I read that as separate. But those are things that we can talk about later. So section 43, the Texas law grants the municipality regulatory authority over its ETJ, including the power to annex under chapter 43 of the local government code. And so that's another reason we think that we should have been provided notice. And chapter 4303 gives the municipality the ability to fix boundaries of the municipality, to extend the boundaries of the municipality and annex area adjacent to the municipality and exchange area with other municipalities. And then we also have the ability to subdivide, zone, and plat land in the ETJ. We also have the ability under 43.075 of the local government code to use additional sales taxes collected from the newly annexed areas from that municipality's ETJ. So these are the areas that were annexed from the city of Odessa on November 28, 2019, the yellow areas. And pursuant to chapter 321 of the tax code, we have the ability to impose taxes in those areas that we annex. So if you look in the city limits, the state collects 6.25%. The city of Odessa collects 1.25%, and Ector County Hospital District collects 0.75%. And outside of the city limits, the state collects 6.25%, the Ector County Hospital District collects 0.75%, and the Ector County with the County Assistance District collects 1.25%. And that includes those areas that we recently annexed on November 28, 2018. That area was effective January 1st of 2019. So if you look, there were 3 different languages that the county had regarding this county assistance district. The first excluding the cities of Odessa and Goldsmith. The second excluded territory within the municipal limits of the cities of Odessa and Goldsmith. And the last, which were accepted areas in the city of Odessa that were annexed on or after November 27. I think the comptroller got it wrong, because it was at 28. But this language comes directly from the comptroller, and you'll see that in the next slide. On or after November 27, 2018. So here are taken directly the different language that was sent. The most concerning language to the city is the language that the comptroller was provided.
which is different than what was on the agenda or the
Yes,
ballot,
yes,
right?
ma'am.
So we didn't have any reason to be concerned about that.
No, we never had a reason to be concerned because we didn't have a problem with the county establishing an assistance district.
So where did the change in language come from?
And we can't find where that change of language came from. But it would be the language that was provided to the comptroller by the county, but at this time, even through open records requests, we don't know where that language comes from. And let me tell you why that language is so concerning to the city. Here's the timeline. On November 28, 2018, that's when we voted to annex the certain properties within the ETJ. And ours was effective on January 1st, 2019. The county assistance district was not effective until April 1st, 2019. And so with that language that was sent to the comptroller, that even prevents us from being able to tax the area that was in the city limits on January 1st, 2019, with the latest language that was sent to the comptroller. So these are the city's findings, the city's legal department findings. One is that the chapter does not allow the county to exclude any municipal boundaries. That is a unilateral right of the city of Odessa. Our second finding is that the legislator has given the city of Odessa power to unilaterally exclude any territory of the city from the proposed district. That the county was required to notify the board of directors and the Odessa Development Corporation of its intent to establish a county assistance district. And that the territory of the city of Odessa under chapter 387 includes all territory of the city of Odessa that is the subject to the exercise of its authority to impose a municipal sales tax in the area of the proposed assistance district. So as we already spoke about, the city is not interested in filing litigation against the county. The city does not want to see this tied up in court for years to come. We're not interested in taking any of the money that the county has currently collected. We're not trying to do anything retroactively. We would just like to, if we have a company or someone that wants to be voluntarily annexed into the city of Odessa, we would like to be able to provide them services and be able to tax that particular area. And as I mentioned, this issue has come up, especially in the Houston area, and other cities and counties were able to come to an agreement regarding this. That's all I have.
So my question would be, how would we rectify where we're at and how do we go forward? She would say that, again, we have gone to voluntary annexation. So if an individual, if a company approaches us to be voluntarily annexed, within our ETJ, and want to be provided the services accordingly, then we want to be able to provide those services subject to be able to collect appropriately from them for that service, correct?
Yes.
It's not, obviously, it's not just limited to companies, but development.
Right, developments, et cetera, et cetera.
Is there any was? Has anybody already voluntarily been annexed? Or are we just talking about going forward and?
Going forward, I
The
think.
pilot plan. And that pilot, in fact, that's probably when we began to realize this is even happening. But that pilot, isn't
Yes,
that,
the pilot,
doesn't it fall in this?
There was more than just a pilot that's been annexed this year. isn't there?
yes, and I think we just recently, did some voluntary annexation.
In the industrial district?
Yes.
And that would resolve things that we need to do in order to be appropriately paid for the services that we can provide, correct?
Yes.
Otherwise, if they come to us as it is right now, we can't provide the services to them.
And I think we could work with the county to come up with areas that we would never want to annex or never touch, so. And then I think we can also agree that even though we're 5 miles now after we declared for population over 100,000, that we could agree to the 3.5 in the ETJ, along with the areas that that the city would never be interested in annexing, so that way the county doesn't say, hey, what if you wanna come annex all of our, I know, we can't afford it ourselves, so
We
there's
can't
no
afford to
way.
annex West Odessa,
Right,
for instance.
no, we would never do that.
Without stating the obvious, we know you would never annex anything that doesn't have good sales tax, which is what we would do. So that's the concern is if you cherry pick where you annex, only where there's good corporations that are generating on the sales tax.
So could we not come to the table and talk about that and agree
I
to
think that is
areas?
I think that is the answer, is if you get to a point where you want to annex something, that's when we would talk about that specific
But what
side.
about the voluntary?
Right, so you would just help
If it's one
people.
voluntarily,
Right.
We don't go out and say we want to do.
no.
A lot
So
of
you
the-
just
don't-
said
I'd like to
it's
see
Some of the
allowed.
industrial districts have very little or no sales tax.
Right. But
So, I mean, as far as us just cherry picking the hot ones, no, we're taking everything
Yeah.
that people walking in.
But I don't know how this differs from like, I mean, obviously when we set up the sales tax, we would have loved to have been able to say, okay, hospital district, you know, y'all can't collect here anymore because we're gonna start taxing it. I mean, once it's established, and I think, and I can't speak for the changes in the terms, but, I mean, based on the timeline, probably what it looked like to us was that as soon as we passed, y'all immediately jumped out and annexed a bunch of areas to try and get that sales tax money before we could. So maybe that's why
We
they
weren't
said.
aware.
So,
We didn't have notice, so there would be no way.
Well, again, I think from the county's point of view, I think our argument would still be that our interpretation is correct in that we only give you notice if we are taking something that's inside the city limits that you're already collecting sales tax on. So I think until
Well, why
somebody
would
told
you
us
be
to do
able
that,
to take something out of the city?
that's why
That
we have
wouldn't
to give
make
you
sense,
notice.
that's
But
why
you
you
couldn't
couldn't
do
take
that,
the city.
Well,
Give us
So
notice
you
or
wouldn't
not.
have to give us notice of anything with the city, cause you can claim sales
that-
tax in the
that's
city
what-
limits.
That's what that's to prevent though.
If I may, I believe that notice requirement is, not all cities collect the max sales tax they could collect. So it's to prevent counties from going into those cities and taking that potential sales tax revenue from the city municipal limits away from the city. Does that make sense? Since Odessa is already at the max sales tax limit, even if we included them in our district, there's nothing we would collect because there's no
'Cause it's
tax
already
left to
at the
collect.
max. Sorry.
So it's there to protect cities from counties encroaching into their city limits and getting that difference between whatever they're charging citizens versus whatever the max is. And since we're already at the max, it didn't really apply to us within the city
And maybe it
limits.
also applies to the point that cities and counties regulate the ETJ. That's something that they share. So we would have received notice, I believe the statute says, look, the city can come back and unilaterally, why would we unilaterally be able to exclude territory? If you look at the statute, I mean, you have to realize that the legislator has given city the right to, the ETJ and to regulate the ETJ. So I think, well, we do have ability to tax in the annexed area, that's chapter 43.
For sales tax.
In an annexed area, not in the
Yeah,
ETJ.
If you annex, it's part of the
Yeah,
city
if we
limits.
annex, it makes it a part of the
You
city.
can't tax an ETJ because it's county property.
No, we can't, but if we annex, we
So
can.
here's
We
what
have
I-
that.
here-
It's already, it's
okay.
already been taxed before you got in,
I think what Councilman Dewey is looking for is the county at this point to entertain a motion to go ahead and give the annexed pieces of the property over that sales tax to the city. I mean, we're all here, I mean, is that what we're
I'm
looking
asking
for?
for what is the best resolution?
I mean, so-
we can Look at going forward, I mean.
So let's just ask if we're gonna do that, and then we move on to the next piece. Because it's either a yes or no. So, do I hear a motion from?
I want it stated from a representative from the city exactly what you are asking. I want
Okay, there you
more
go.
than final terms. What do you want?
What do y'all want?
Simply, it's, if we've annexed it, city gets it voluntarily. There were things, where did that date come from in the ballot, or when it was sent to comptroller? if it would have been the same as the language on the ballot, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But somebody put that date on it. Nobody tells who did that date. That's where the issue came from. Was that actually voted on by the citizens? If they elect the election and on the ballot, it states excluding all within municipal limits of the cities of Odessa and Goldsmith, and then all of a sudden there's a date on it when you send it to the comptroller. That looks,
Well, what it amounts to is that what it says on the ballot didn't cause us any concern because we knew that because all territory within the municipal limits of the cities of Odessa and Goldsmith are excluded, that didn't mean as of the date of the election, that means forevermore.
No, it can't be that. Y'all can annex as much as you want.
Yeah, well, no problem.
But how
I mean-
would you all be able to come in and say, your limits right now we are limiting the limits of growth of the city of Odessa?
Not at all. We're limiting how much sales tax you can generate in that area. But,
But well,
again, you
but
got
not the
property tax.
requirements.
So if we could,
Can
if
it
they're
happen?
not providing in
And
that
property
area.
tax is not valuable to them. I mean,
no,
that's,
the county pays property taxes within the city.
right.
It goes out to y'all. I mean, it's going both ways.
I'm just saying, and based on what you're saying, I mean, if the ETJ area counts, every time you annexed, the ETJ extends to. And so theoretically, at some point, we would have no sales tax money again.
We're not taking the whole ETJ. We can't
Not
go out.
today.
We can't go into West, whoa. We can't go into West Odessa, because if you take part of West Odessa, you take the entire ECUD area. That's by statute. We're not interested in taking West Odessa.
Yeah, not today, but I'm
Oh,
just saying.
we can't afford to do the infrastructure, curb and gutter and roads and water and all that. So no, we're not interested in taking that. Not now, or almost positive, no council's going to do it in the future. Where did that date come from? That's the thing that we can't get the answer.
I don't know, other than the fact that, again, maybe that's the date we submitted the documents.
That's not what they voted.
Well, but at the same time, the people that voted for the sales tax lived in those areas that were excluded by that tax. So, again, as of the time of the vote, the people saw the district of what they were voting for, the people in that area voted for it. And then after the fact, y'all annexed part of it. So,
We
again,
annexed
they,
before it.
The city
Not
is
for the vote.
always changing size and shape by annexation. I mean,
Your Honor, if I may, about the date, I'm no tax lawyer, but my understanding is the obligation for the comptroller to start collecting on behalf of the county didn't become effective at the date of the vote. It became effective once the election results were certified and received by the comptroller. And that's, I'm guessing that's where that language came
Do
from.
you have something that shows it? I'd like to see it in writing. I do not. You have to call the comptroller. They came up with that, not us. Because they did explain to us that that procedure we had to go through to certify the election results and send to them before it became effective. So, in theory, if we would have sat on that for another 2 months and then sent it in, it wouldn't have become effective until that date. But the election results were certified and sent in, I believe, on the same day or relatively close. And I believe that's where that language comes in, if that helps
So,
answer your questions.
Dusty, what you're saying is that the state inserted that exclusion?
I can't say for sure, one way or the other, Ms. Dean, because I don't know, but I do remember having those conversations about certifying the results and having to send them in.
Because it couldn't be sitting until it was certified.
But do you, at least I think you can see why this gives us pause, because that isn't what it said on the ballot. And we had no reason to be alarmed by the creation of the district.
so,
Well, hang on a
could
second.
have we put that on the ballot, not knowing that you were gonna annex?
You
it?
can't really complain about not having notice and then say you're not concerned about the election. Those are kind of counterproductive. Either you were concerned about the election because you didn't get notice, or you weren't. The language should be irrelevant. That's simply an issue for the comptroller.
No, we're,
You had notice of the election. You may not have had an actual physical paper that we handed you, but you knew a year in advance that that sales, or actually several months in advance. Hang on a second. that election
for
took
that
place and
election.
what it was, because Ron Eckert did all that.
Yeah,
And
we
it failed the first
absolutely
time.
supported that.
And it was the exact same boundaries the second time around. So to sit here and say, well, we didn't have notice is kind of disingenuous. Yeah, we didn't give you a piece of paper that said, here's the boundaries, but let's face it, you knew there was an election, you knew what it was, and you knew what it was for.
But we also knew our interpretation of that ballot language
And I understand that,
didn't
and
create any concern for us. We're not trying to get all the money from the county.
we disagree on
So-
how things should be interpreted, I get that.
I get that. And
So-
we disagree about being disingenuous, because we have not said that about that date. We feel like that was not intentionally
Okay.
done.
If that was the case, then what Judge Hayes says about a yes or no vote on those properties that we're talking about should solve the issue. And y'all's response was, no, not really, because we gotta talk about what's going forward. Well, that date has nothing to do with what's going forward.
Well, it does. It
No, it
sets
absolutely
the
doesn't.
date that from that date forward.
Well, that's any election. Y'all's elections are the same way within the city. We can't go into the city and start collecting sales tax and take it away from you without voter approval saying, divide it up this way. It's no different than the district we created. Y'all don't get to annex stuff and start taking the sales tax away from us without voter approval. That's just the way it works.
Well,
Now,
I think
with that, hang on real quick. With that said, Natasha is correct. The Commissioners Court can agree with the City Council on how to divide anything they want within that assistance district. That is permissible. We just have to submit a new map to the controller, as she mentioned. So beyond that,
I can't
she
do
going to
that.
finish?
Because I went after those districts and said, if y'all vote this in, this money is going to use for these things. And I said that. And I guarantee that, so I gave them my word, and that's what we're going to do. And now it's like, well, unless the city annexes it, then we're gonna give that back to the city. Well, that's not right for me to do, I can't do that.
I think what you were saying to those people is that the money that we collect is gonna be spent on these roads. Our position, Dale, is just that part of that money you're collecting, you probably shouldn't have been able to. That's just based on
We'll
if
disagree
it
on
was
that.
in it.
Once it
Sure, we
became a part of
disagree.
the city
I mean,
budget.
we do, but I
Right.
think it's important that we respectfully disagree.
Right.
I see what you're saying, and surely you can understand
Right.
what, I mean, we thought that within the municipal limits of the city of Odessa included what they are and what they are at the time that sales tax is collected. So if it moves, the sales tax is collected if the municipality has changed. So, I mean, I can see how you thought, and I can see how we think. I don't know what the solution is, but I know it seems that there should be one.
What do you think, Eddie? Because this is mainly in your district, so.
Well, I'm with Dale, I mean, I
I
told
mean, how
them
do
we're
you
gonna
feel?
spend this money on them. You know, my concern would be the day. I mean, if they were just asking, like Dustin said, for the areas that they had annexed prior to, after that date, but prior to the election, then, that would be an easy fix.
So then you would be okay with giving them the sales tax for
Well,
all of that they annexed in at the beginning of 2019? Or
Yeah,
prior
we're-
to April?
Never okay with giving money away. I mean, that's-
I go back
I mean,
to-
because I can tell you that there was a snapshot, the way that it was explained to me was that on the day that the voters went to the polls and voted, there's a snapshot
The boundaries
taken.
that they voted.
And that's the boundaries that the voters voted to create an assisted district tax. So whatever that snapshot was on the day they voted.
If that's what you believe the boundaries are,
No, that's what I was led to believe from the comptroller's office. So what happened was after after that was, voted on, then we had to certify the vote, then we had to send, Jeannie, you're in this room, so then we had to send that whole list of every single person that voted for it to the comptroller's office, right? Okay, so all of that went to the comptroller's office. then they went through a process of determining, based on, I guess, tax ID numbers, where those tax ID numbers were inside or outside the county. And they determined what that list was. And they had to have a window to notify all of the commercial companies, whoever that collects sales tax, that you are now going to be increased in sales tax that you have to pay. So they had to have a window to do that, and then
To
that.
collect.
Yeah, and to collect the money before they could distribute any money to us, so that took the whole first quarter of this year. So we didn't set those dates, the comptroller's office set those dates, is my understanding, because we didn't give them a timeline of when we wanted them to start collecting, when we wanted our check. They did all that, they did all the notification, they did all of that. We did not do that. So,
Well, I personally don't believe that you going back and paying us from the date of the election until April is appropriate. I mean, you either owe us from that point in the future, or you don't just owe us for that. I mean, I don't think that we need to expect you to pay us for that. I think it depends on how this is resolved. I don't think that is like an answer, if you will. Personally, I'm just one vote.
You know, I think one of the things that from this whole meeting, that in my mind, that is really probably as burdensome as anything, we don't communicate. And goodness gracious, folks, we're in this ballgame together to take care of our people in the city and the county. And we're not talking. We're not talking. And there's opportunities that may happen in the future that we need to annex more area voluntarily. Not us going out there and taking it. We're gonna go take your money. No, that's not it. Voluntary coming in to take, to annex, and we're gonna have to provide services too, that we need to have compensation accordingly. Now then, in my mind, the first thing we need to do, I mean, and it's not, this didn't happen overnight, because this happened back in 99, 97, 92, whatever it might have been. And that's bothersome, guys and gals, because we're in this thing together for these people here, for this community, for this county, this city, the whole bit. And I think the first thing we need to do is to develop a communication process together when we talk. We don't question each other on dates. We know each other's dates because we're talking. We're in front of each other. We're looking at each other. We know what everybody's gonna do. What can we help you with? What can y'all help us with? In my mind, what I would do is leave everything it is right now. And let's talk about when there's somebody that voluntarily comes to us to annex, we talk about it. Now, how would that be? Leave everything as it is right now. We're talking about volunteering. We're not talking about we're walking on their door. They're coming in to say, would you annex us? And in order for us to do that, we're gonna have to provide services. In order for us to provide those services, we're gonna have to be compensated some way in order to do that. But let's talk about it when that point comes.
To me, that makes no sense. 'Cause then-
What is. I mean, I don't wanna walk out of this place with anybody thinking that we're not working together on this thing going forward. And maybe that's the way we start. We cut the line here and go forward from there.
Well, I for sure don't want us intentionally or unintentionally to pit county citizens against the
No,
city,
no,
or the
no,
commission
no.
against the city council, or any of that. I really don't think that's anybody's intent, yours or ours. So,
Well, I think you're right on, Dewey, but I don't wanna wait to communicate when something happens. We gotta communicate.
Absolutely,
Okay.
we got to be in front of each other as a.
I mean, this is our opportunity to get the lines of communication going. We need to work through this amicably with the mindset of what's best for the community, what's best for the citizens.
Absolutely right. I appreciate what you said earlier, Judge, but there are things that are inequitable. Both sides. We're not probably paying enough for the jail, you know, so it's a two-sided conversation in coin. But the best thing for us to do is work together to get to a point that's equitable for the citizens of this county and this city, period. Which is an ever-changing day.
We keep reiterating that we need to communicate, and here it is, we're again at this table.
One of, if y'all can remember, I spoke against to annex my street to your city council. I asked her not to do that. I personally asked not to do that. And the same thing is, when I spoke, y'all didn't listen. Y'all voted in favor. So I gave my opinion, and it was not working.
Well,
And I gave it, now you have the problem, now you want our service.
Is that
our
talking
money.
about the annexing of the houses?
Yeah, the
No,
Sterling
no.
Park, I think.
Sterling Park.
Sterling Park.
The whole thing that you annexed it.
It was residential.
It was residential, but,
No, the people that came up to me was a place that we got annexing my area, in my place, but you just show them the picture.
well, shame on me.
Yeah.
Shame on me, Armando. I'm
That's
sorry I
okay.
didn't.
I tried to.
But you know what? We gotta cut it sometime and go forward. If we're gonna hold grudges against each other, that's not the way to move forward with it.
I'm not holding grudges.
I understand.
I spoke
But
well. I spoke
let's
well.
communicate as a group. Let's communicate as we can accordingly to move forward to do the best that we can do for the city and county. We can't go off contracts from 20 years ago. You know, that's just not good management on any of our part. And we're all managers. So I don't think that we're gonna point fingers at everybody or anybody, but let's get started on a new path and go forward. That's all I'm asking.
Well, I tell you what I'm committed to do, because I did say that I really feel like that this is just monopoly money going back and forth at the arms of the people. And I totally agree that the best thing for us to do is to communicate and do what's best for the people. So I will commit to once a month having a meeting with the city manager and the mayor on a monthly basis to discuss issues and concerns that are inside the city and the issues and concerns that are inside the county. So that when an opportunity comes up
We're all
inside the
educated.
ETJ, that you're wanting to annex in for the betterment of all the people, then the three of us will have a communication line open that we in turn can communicate to our fellow boards.
I think that's a great idea. That's it. Y'all?
Yes, I agree.
And I think, like you said, I mean, if we look and discuss each item as it comes up for annexation, that forces us to talk ahead of
Talk
time.
about it.
and-
Let's see what's gonna affect
So,
each
because
other.
in the past, I mean, y'all might annex up, well, 56th Street in my precinct was a perfect example. I mean, we're sitting there, we spent $300,000 getting ready to widen.
It was a lot of good
And all of a
communication,
sudden,
wasn't it?
all of a sudden, it's annexed by the city. I'm like, what?
Well,
It's,
and I'm not, I think that communication process, that's a great example. Okay?
So at least this way, I mean, it forces us to talk ahead of time so we can start working out the
And it may
details.
take an all-day affair, you know?
Well, and I
If
mean-
things are on your plate, if things on the mayor and the city council, city
I
manager's
mean,
plate.
Michael will sit here and tell you, we were at an MPO meeting trying to discuss how to move a project that's a bridge over the loop, up, farther up the calendar. And I look at Tom Frost, Commissioner, City Council Frost, I'm like, negotiate and move this one up here. They want this one ahead. If you will move this one up, you're gonna get something while you give him something. And he did it. That's working together.
And that's
I
what
helped the
we
city do that.
Sure.
Why would I not? Because it helps all
All
of
of
us.
us, and that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
And that's what we've got to move forward doing. That's all I ask us to do.
Other comments?
Or we could just fight it out in court and get all of it. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
But that's not what we're here for.
We don't want that,
That's
but
not- that's not what
two
we're-
people can't seem to agree, then what else are you kind of left to do?
I think we're agreeing that we need to work together. I mean, and for
And
the
I think
betterment of
we're
our
agreeing
community.
that we're gonna respectfully
Work.
agree or disagree.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I mean, we're not gonna be on the same page there all the time. That's okay. You know, that's part of life. I appreciate the work y'all have done, Mr. Galvan, Tasha, for the things y'all have done. Appreciate the work. I know there's been an awful lot, but let's keep the door of communication open. Move forward. Could I say one thing? I'm very encouraged that you guys are talking communications. I would be really encouraged if you would consider adding the Ector County Utility District into those communications. We have a lot to offer. We've tried to work with the different entities, and I think that board wants to do that for the better good. And so I would ask you to consider the Ector County Utility District as a part of the group that thinks about what's good for everybody. What?
All taxing it.
Could I just throw in that the Odessa partnership used to meet on a monthly basis for this exact purpose?
That's what I was just saying.
We meet bi-monthly now or every other month, and we just started to not really have any, relevant
Listen
meetings.
in
So
to that.
Chamber is more than happy to host that in our boardroom and make that available on a monthly or bi-monthly, whatever you, or every other month. Or to just continue that and make it more focused with what y'all are trying to do. But
Well,
if
I
y'all
think
wanna do
you
your own
start-
thing, that's fine as well.
I appreciate that, Wesley, and I think you start there, but I do think you need to get down to nitty gritty every once in a while too,
Yeah.
with the mayor and the city manager and, the city, and, our mayor, mayor. So, I appreciate that, thank you, Wesley, good point, great point. Great point, Bill, appreciate that too.
Yeah, because I think for the holidays and everything, we had been already taxing entities meeting, and I would greatly appreciate if you guys would put that back together, starting in January. Thank you.
I think we need to be the instigators of the communication here. And let's make sure we make it right.
That concludes all of our business.
Any other business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I didn't know if we were talking courthouse or not.
All in favor, say aye.
No.
Is it on the agenda? That's
Is it on the agenda?
I didn't look at the agenda either.
There's a continuation of the agenda.
So, we can,
We'll get it together later.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. We
I'll
are
entertain a
adjourned.
motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Adjourn. Good work, everybody.